All right, back to function notation. So an important thing that you need to be able to do for function notation is you need to be able to see an equation given to you within a word problem, so something that actually has meaning, and be able to identify what those things stand for. Like, what does X actually stand for? How can you use X to do things? So hopefully this delta math isn't too bad. You know, if you really struggle on it, it's okay. It's okay. You can stop. But the idea is that you're analyzing what it means to have this X, right? Let me get the drawing pen here going. What it means to have an X here. Like, what does this X mean? Where am I using it? How am I using it? Can I interpret it? So let's look at this problem. There's going to be a lot of reading, I apologize. So a college has a financial aid formula that applies to applicants whose family's income is below a certain threshold. Oh my goodness, what does that mean? It just means that you can fill out this application. If your family doesn't make, so much money, if you don't make money up here, you make it here, not a big deal, but you can get help. You can get extra money for college. Okay, so that's what they're saying. So the financial aid can be determined by the function. So they give us this equation right here that we're going to use a lot. So you don't have to understand where the numbers came from. That's not part of this. This is just that you can use the equation they give us, okay? Which isn't too scary if you look at it. This is an important sentence though, where X is the number of siblings. So they're telling us X stands for. So we need to make sure we keep that in mind. X is the number of siblings, including half siblings and step siblings, just in case you're wondering, that are living in the house. Find and interpret the given function values and determine an appropriate domain for the function. Let's not worry about that last part for now, but find and interpret the given function values. So if we look down here, it says f of -4. So we've learned that if there's a -4 here, I'm plugging that in for my variable. So I'm going back up here. I'm going to the 5,000. And then it says plus 1,000 times x. So 1,000 times, and then x is -4. So I'm plugging in -4. So I got 5,000 plus -4,000 gives me 1,000. So I'm going to type in 1,000. Now remember, X is the number of siblings, and we just plugged in -4 for X. So in the next part says, meaning a qualifying applicant with how many siblings? -4 siblings. Weird. In their household will get, well, we'll get whatever we got as an answer, 1,000 in financial aid. This interpretation, does it make sense or does it not make sense? And hopefully you're saying, how can you have negative siblings? That you can't even do that. That's weird. That doesn't make sense. Okay, so then we move on to the next one. Not every problem they give us is going to make sense. Okay, so now we move on to the next one. I'm going to change my color so that we don't get confused. Now I'm plugging in 2. Oh, now I'm plugging in 2 for my X. So I go back up and I say, okay, I'm plugging in 2. So 5,000 plus 1,000 times 2. If I do that math, I get 5,000 plus 2,000. And that will equal 7,000. So what does that mean? I just got 7,000 as an answer. So down here where I say f of 2, I need to say what I got as an answer, 7,000. Meaning a qualifying applicant with, well, how many siblings? Remember, X is the number of siblings. We just plugged in 2 for X. So with 2 siblings in their household, we got 7,000 as an answer. So look at $7,000. Does that make sense? Sure does. Makes sense. You can have 2 siblings. You can get $7,000. I'm fine with that. That makes sense. Okay, I'm going to clear some of my drawings here because I'm going to scroll down. Okay, so 1.5. If I plug in 1.5, remember my equation is 5,000 times 1,000, or 5,000 plus 1,000x. So I'm going to plug in 1.5. So we get 5,000 plus 1,000 times 1.5. So I get 5,000 plus 150, or sorry, 1,500. So it gives me $6,500. So 1.5, we plugged in 1.5, we got 6,500. How many siblings? 1.5 siblings. That's what we plugged in for X. We got $6,500. And does this make sense? I'm going to say no. It doesn't make sense because you can't have 1.5 siblings. I mean, I know we say half siblings, but do we really count them as half of a person? No. They're our sibling. They live in our house. So based on our observations, now we're going to answer this last question. We're talking about domain. Remember, we talked about domain. Domain is the X values. So those are all these values we're plugging in here. This one didn't make sense. It was negative. You can't have negative siblings. This one did. We were good with this one. It's positive. We were happy. This one's positive, but we're not happy because you can't have half a sibling. So if I'm looking at what X values can I have, all real numbers means negatives and decimals. Non-negative real numbers, that means like positive numbers, but still decimals, and we can't have decimals. Okay, real numbers between certain things, again, that means you can have decimals. Real numbers means I can have decimals. Integers, so those are whole numbers, no decimals, but those include negatives. Whole numbers, 0, 1, 2. I kind of like that. Can you have 0 siblings? That's the question. Can you have 0 siblings? You can be an only child, right? Positive integers, which is just like the whole numbers, except you start with 1. So that means you have to have a sibling, which is not a rule. And integers between A and B, we're not really capping it. You can have a bunch of siblings. We're not going to make it a biggest number. So I'm thinking we're going with whole numbers. So there's a lot to a problem. And so remember, you don't have to do all 3 problems, but let's see how we did. I'm hoping I did good. Yay, we got it right. I was actually a little bit worried because there's so much going on, right? Okay, so here we go. We plugged in those numbers. So what am I looking for from you here? I'm looking that you can identify that X is the number of siblings because of reading this, that you understand X is a siblings, and you understand that when you plug it all in and you get your answer, you're getting your amount of financial aid. So those are really important here that you can understand those. Now, the other things in here that they ask about, like the domain, if you get that wrong, it's okay. So make sure when you're done, you read through your solution and their solution. So if you got it wrong, if you got everything right, but maybe the ending with the domain, it's not that big of a deal. But remember, domain is something that we are working on and what X values make sense. All right, good luck.